I'll stop here and I'll present Lala. So I met Lala in Brazil. I went a few times to Brazil, and I was quite impressed with her work. So we had a project in the P2P Foundation, which is called 100 Women of P2P. So she was one of the 100. She's been an actress, so quite famous in Brazil. And she's very active in the cultural center. The way I know Lala was basically as an extraordinary facilitator and as a futurist. The way that Lala works, I think, is very interesting. She works around desired futures. So she makes people dream about what they really want in their lives, but then she makes it happen. So she has a whole set of tools and methods which accompany people in their journey to their desired future. So I think we have a lot to learn to you, and yeah, I give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. So, considering what Michel just said, that civilizations have transitions, and this transition is a transition toward the commons, what I prepared was a very fast overview on how, because we see that all of us desire the same thing, but the question is how. And I am a howist. I have been doing this in many, many fields, but always in environments of high responsibility. For instance, I was part of the team that spread the idea of creative economy in the UN system and working in 4 continents. And I worked in Brazil for national projects on local development and so on. So things that really have to result. And during this process of almost 40 years now, a method was designed. And what is, I think, what we are going through, it's very clear, is the biggest transition in the history of humanity. But the thing is that what before took hundreds of thousands of years now happens in decades or years. And the point is that this transition, web, digital, brings something that never happened before, because the web is outside time and space. And being outside time and space, it's exponential. But the problem is that we, time, and the planet are not. So we have linear capacity to respond to exponential challenges. But there must be a solution. And the solution is the commons, is to converge, to do 2 things together. But it's amazing how this doesn't happen spontaneously. So in order to converge, we need technology, of course, but we also need collaboration. That is the social and human part of this. So in the crisis in 2008, had with it, the tech giants grow, giants that convert data, infrastructure, markets. And now the next phase is about the giants of collaboration that converge capabilities, time, surplus, partners. And that is the point, how we can converge all those things. And only by this combination we manage. But the problem is that our ability to cooperate is more or less like this. And it's not at all spontaneous. And we've seen hundreds and hundreds of fantastic projects that didn't succeed because they were naive. They thought that the good intention was enough. And how now the path to hell is paved with good intentions. So the question is, how do we do this? So the first thing we need is to simplify and understand the flow, what's going on, how to structure something. We need a common compass. And the compass has what? Has 2 coordinates. So one, we're used to it. It's tangible, material. The other one is really usually unseen, which is intangible, the basis of creative economy and the basis of everything that we're seeing in digital, that manages to be exponential. When we combine these 2 coordinates, we have a compass. We have 4 dimensions. But the thing, too, in the tangible, so the environmental and the financial not being that much tangible, and the cultural and social. What happens is that so far there is a missing link. It's super curious that we still don't put the 4 dimensions. So it's a compass that misses a leg. And this leg is the key. This is why we always have cultural wars. So this missing link is the cultural dimension. So this compass provides some lenses. With these lenses that include that we're always wishing for the desirable future. We don't make scenarios. We try to find out what people want, because if they want, they do it. As Edgar showed us yesterday, how playing we can achieve things. So this is a combination of desirable futures, 4 dimensions, 4 new economies. And society and economy are a combination of these 4, like the world is a combination of 4 elements. So what I do journeys to turn isolated projects that are solutions for the future into collaborative impact ecosystems that invest, therefore, the resources to achieve for the impact. And they do so by sharing infrastructure. We had a lot of methods, gadgets, and things to do that. And I'll give you a brief idea of what this can be. So, for instance, the first thing we do, this was for Globo, which is the biggest Brazilian TV. And the first thing we do is understand the needs in 4 dimensions, because it's useless to solve the question, anything in just 1 dimension. Then we can also map resources, non-monetary resources. And with these resources, a lot can be done. So this is Martadero in Cochabamba, Bolivia. They have 10 years now. They use the method. And they managed to do things using 30% money and the rest with 4D flow. And all the management, all the design of the projects, everything is 4D. If we have these lenses, we can map stakeholders and qualify them. And by doing this, we can have some matchmaking. And this matchmaking, for instance, is last year's process with São Paulo Fashion Week. It's very big in Brazil, the 5th in the world or 3rd. And we had a regeneration journey converging 50 small enterprises. And by matching their desires and their assets, they co-created 54 new businesses, products, and so on in 75 days through this journey. We have methods to attribute value, because we talk a lot about, with all these possibilities that David was talking about, of blockchain and so on, we can evaluate things. But the thing is, we don't have criteria, or if we have, they're very complicated. And this, for the perspective, is extremely useful to understand the effect of what you're doing, because we check the viability, the impact, the relevance, and the reach of what we are doing. And there is another example, super interesting. This was a program financed by the European Union, and it was reshaping the art world. And one of the prototypes resulting of this project was a tool, tech tool, to make a 4D evaluation of cultural projects, because it's very difficult to evaluate cultural projects because they are intangible. They have different results. From this experience, what I learned? I learned that we, the ones that work to change the world, many times we belong to project land. And Project Land is very good at this. We have a desirable future, we design an idea, and if we succeed, we make it become something physical. But we don't manage to reach the audience, neither to make it sustainable. Business land, sustainable in the sense of surviving. Business land is the opposite. It starts in the financial, it reaches the market, and then it tries to find the desirable future. And project land and business land don't get along very well, but they must. So the thing is how? Project land usually raises funds to start something and then use this money to do what we want, and then money finishes, and then again and again and again, and we are always beginning from zero. While business land invests this money in building the infrastructure to create new businesses and to achieve exponential growth. So this is what we need. You won't find someone from Project Land that have recurrent earnings. So the key, I learned this from Michel, is we have a common shared purpose, and that is solving some need of society. Usually, we know how to do the cultural part, which is the designing of the solution. But usually we spend 80% of the time trying to do what we don't know and don't like, which is the infrastructure, the selling, communicating, managing, and so on. But if we have a shared structure, then what can happen? We can share resources, because each business has the budget for everything. But our needs are similar: infrastructure, communication, channels to sell, etc. So if we share them in a common structure, we will meet everybody's needs and something will remain. And this can be invested in common projects that can generate spin-offs, that can generate recurring earnings and fund new projects. So how do we achieve this? One of the possibilities is platform co-ops, shared infrastructure. You have your brand, you dedicate your time to what you do, your solution, and then the rest is shared. And this is particularly possible if instead of doing things for, we do things with. I once asked someone I was working to of huge company that have 7 million employees. And I said, have you ever thought about doing things between them and not to? And for all your clients. So this is amazing if we change, instead of being centralizing, working to, but working with. And then this is possible how? Economy is like an iceberg. We only see the top. And the top is GDP, or maybe sometimes a little bit that we transaction to barter of the surplus. But there is a huge part not seen. It is this for the resources we work with, and all the things Michel works with, which is this contributive economy plus the nature's economy. And it is possible in these journeys to have a platform that connects and exchanges everything that is below the iceberg and converges these in collective projects for shared purposes. Then we meet the needs of the people and the desires. I will soon explain a little bit more on this, about on how can this work. For example, in one project like the Amazon Fun Park, we are working together. They are building up the hardware, and we are designing these journeys to provide all the apparatus that will be used inside the park. from furniture to the content. I will explain this in the other room, Tiles room, briefly. And so if you want to know a little more on the house, you're welcome. And if you want to know more about me, some books, you can find them in my website. And also for those that speak Portuguese, I write for Época Negócios, which is a business magazine in Brazil that is online also. So that's it. Thank you.